Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Scholes. Today we have our first of 3 folktales from Italy, and specifically from Thomas Frederick Crane's popular Italian tales. Our first story is a short and sweet one that has the potential to be a short and, well, bloody one, but it doesn't. And for the first time, I think that's perfect. This is Vineyard I Was, and Vineyard I Am. A king, averse to marriage, commanded his steward to remain single. The latter, however, one day saw a beautiful girl named Vigna, and married her secretly. Although he kept her closely confined in her chamber, the king became suspicious and sent the steward off on an embassy. After his departure, the king entered the apartment occupied by him and saw his officer's wife sleeping. He did not disturb her, but in leaving the room dropped one of his gloves accidentally on the bed. When the husband returned, he found it, but kept a discreet silence, ceasing, however, all demonstrations of affection, believing his wife had been faithless. The king, anxious to see again this beautiful woman, made a feast and ordered the steward to bring his wife to it. He denied in vain that he had one, but brought her at last, and while everyone else was talking gaily at the feast, she was silent. The king observed it, and asked her the cause of her silence, and she answered with a pun on her name. "Vineyard I was, and vineyard I am. I was loved and no longer am. I know not for what reason the vineyard has lost its season." Her husband, who heard this, replied, "Vineyard thou wast, and vineyard thou art. Loved thou wast, and no longer art. The vineyard has lost its season for the lion's claw." The king, who understood what he meant, answered, "I entered the vineyard. I touched the leaves, but I swear by my crown that I have not tasted the fruit." Then the steward understood that his wife was innocent, and the two made peace, and always lived happy and contented. And that is the Italian folktale of Vineyard I Was, and Vineyard I Am. And like I said, this is the story that so many other times, in so many other tales, has been, well, quite frankly, bloody. It's been one of those things that the king would have had somebody killed, or perhaps the husband would have had his wife beaten. There would have been somebody doing some bodily harm. But in this version of this tale, there isn't. And I love it. It's a misunderstanding, and it's cleared up with words. People, although acting a bit childish, and the king's requirements of celibacy are just bizarre, they act like human beings, which is amazing. This is Dan Scholes for the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you'd like to listen. And you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget that if you'd like to help support the podcast, you can head over to patreon.com/folktaleproject, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get early access to every story told. As always, thank you so much for listening.